Welcome to the open mic. Long before representation was even a trend, Roshni was building the infrastructure for it. As the founder of Urban Nation, she didn't just launch a website, she engineered a global cultural bridge connecting the UK, the US, and India at a time when our voices were still on the periphery. She created a global stage for South Asian voices when the mainstream hadn't even tuned in yet. Today, on International Women's Day, we are going beyond the headlines and behind the scenes to talk about success, the art of the pivot, and what it takes to lead as a woman in 2026. Hi, Roshni. Welcome to the open mic.
Hi, here. Thank you so much for having me as well.
How have you been?
I'm good. I'm good. It's 7 o'clock in the morning here, bright and early in Florida. And it's actually Wednesday was Holy, so we're having a Holy celebration today in the town. So super excited for that and super excited to speak with you today.
Before urbanation even existed, who was Roshni and what did you dream of becoming?
Yeah, so before Urban Asian existed, well, I was simply someone that, loved storytelling and culture. Growing up as an Indian in America, I kind of felt that our stories, our music, our films, and our voices weren't getting the spotlight that they deserved in the mainstream media. So I was constantly consuming South Asian entertainment and thinking, why isn't anyone showcasing this to the world? And before I started Urban Asian, I actually was the director of online media for a company called Composite, where I was doing PR for Jay Sean and Raghav, which I'm sure you've heard of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I used to do online media for them back in the early 2003, 2004 era, while I was in college. So I was mentoring a good friend of mine, Jay Gatsby, who was very well known in the entertainment mogul in the United States, who kind of nourished me. And obviously, as everyone knows, my father was a radio host back in the 90s, so I kind of followed into his footsteps. So yeah, before Urban Asian, I was more of a dreamer that kind of believed in representation. I dreamed of creating a platform for South Asian talent, whether it was film, music, fashion, or culture, so it could be celebrated and respected globally. I didn't necessarily start with the idea of building a media brand. I kind of fell into it as soon as I left Composite, and things changed. I went to college, got my marketing degree, got my master's. I was then approached by my partners who live in Los Angeles, who work in the hip hop and R&B industry. So there's three guys and one girl, which is me. So we kind of started the company together in October of 2010. They approached me and said, "Why don't you join? You're a Bollywood fanatic." And I kind of grew up in that whole aspect of listening to Hindi songs, from the 50s and 60s through the radio station that my dad had opened up. And so yeah, Urban Asian was born from that passion. It wasn't just about creating content. It was about building a space, for South Asians, so they can tell their stories and that the world can see it. So yeah, that was basically how it all established.
So, was your focus more on, filling the gap, content gap, or did you feel invisible, like personally?
I was trying to fill the gap because the thing is, when I left Composite and Jay wanted to pursue other things, and I was really interested in still learning. There are a lot of people in the United Kingdom and the US and Canada were reaching out and saying, there's no news platform. Where can we post our PR, like press releases, and our music so that audiences can see it? So yeah, I was trying to fill the gap because before my partners, who I can mention on this, Aman and Amar and John, when Aman had approached me to join the company, I was just podcasting and actually DJing in my room.
Really?
Yeah, so I started this blog. It was like a really small blog called Ft.Roshni. It was just something I was doing on the side. after I left composite. And, my friends at BBC in London, the UK were like, oh, like, you should like play our music. There's no radio station. Well, there was, but it wasn't like, an urban station where people can kind of play their music, how BBC Asian Network plays, you've got the Jay Seans and the Raghavs and the Arjuns and, all the different
In
urban
fact, I
artists that are.
still today I listen to their songs.
Yeah,
They're so
exactly.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, I mean, they sent me music. I used to like kind of play around with all the tools. And then Aman approached me online one day and said, "Hey, why don't we open this website?" And funny enough, they had bought the URL years ago.
Oh,
And they were working for MySpace. So my partners, Aman and Amr, they worked at MySpace. They built MySpace, which is, back then it was big. And they were into buying the URL. So they bought the
oh,
URL Urban Asian, and then I came on board, and basically now I'm kind of running the whole thing with them. So yeah, that's how it all came about. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, filling the gap is so important because as NRIs, we don't get to see a lot of that South Asian representation in the United States. So this was more of a platform for South Asians to be represented.
yeah. So I think your platform is more than a decade old, and still, even today, it's so relevant. Even today, filmmakers, they make sure they are syndicating articles to Urban Asian as well.
Yeah, it's totally nonstop. I also want to add that, I don't do this full time. I work in healthcare as well. So,
Oh,
again, Urban Asian is just a passion. And, yeah, we've been going on, 16 years, as of
oh,
October. So yeah, I'm really proud of what we've
okay.
accomplished so far, but we've got more to do.
Sure. So have you ever rejected any high traffic content to protect the cultural integrity? Where you felt that even if it's getting you more traffic, I'll not do it. I'll not publish it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, when, there are times where people come up to me and say, "Can you post this?" And I just didn't feel like it aligned with our brand. In the first few years, it was kind of difficult because we were looking for an audience. We were looking for people to
Mm,
join our website, and it was known, but it wasn't as known, if you get what I'm saying. And we have rejected in the past, and just to protect our brand. And I think when you run a media platform, there's always going to be opportunities to post content that will kind of generate a lot of traffic.
yeah.
Whether it's gossip, crazy headlines, or stories that can lean into stereotypes. From the beginning, I kind of made a conscious decision with my partners that Urban Asian wouldn't grow on the expense of our community's dignity. So we have to kind of be careful in what we say and what we post because there's sentiment around it. You know, there have been definitely, been moments where we've passed on high traffic content because it didn't align with the values. But again, traffic can be tempting,
Yeah.
especially in digital media. But
Yes,
credibility
absolutely.
and culture integrity is kind of much more important in the long run. So, like,
Yes.
with me personally for Urban Asian, it was just not about clicks. It was just about representation.
Yes.
Because protecting the integrity has always been more important than chasing viral numbers. So I'll give you an example. Back in, I think I can't remember what year it was. Forgive me if I'm wrong. But there was a rape case in India, the Damini case that happened years ago, and BBC had done a documentary on it. And we posted an article, very simple article, a couple lines with embedded of the BBC
Mm,
documentary that a British lady had done. And I'm sure you're aware of that BBC documentary that happened. So we posted it and we thought nothing of it. So one of my writers, Diana, who's very, she's also Indian, lives in New York, she's like, "I'm just going to post this." I went to bed, or the next morning, our website was shut down. And I went on there and I said, "Okay, what's going on?" So,
mm.
our partner John, he came on it and he's like, "No, our website did not go down. Our website crashed because
Oh,
it had over 2.7 million reads." And
which you didn't expect.
which I did not expect. I went on Twitter, I went on social media, and you're seeing Hollywood actors, Bollywood actors, people like influencers reposting the article. So it got a lot of traction. But then a few months later, we were told to take the article down by the government of India. So, it's kind of sad. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
You don't want to. So we had to put a disclaimer on it, obviously. So that was like a turning point when we opened up the website, because we weren't getting 2 million hits per article. But sometimes it's not even about the clicks. It's we want to tell these stories. We are eager to
Right.
tell these stories that are not just entertainment, but more of a lifestyle and more of like an educational purpose. But at the end of the day, we don't want to be shut down because of such things. Yeah, so basically, the whole gist of trying to make sure that you know what you're posting without getting any consequences, if that's basically it. So we have, yes, to answer your question, we have rejected high traffic just to protect the brand.
And within the South Asian community, have you ever faced backlash as to related to the content, what you've posted?
Yeah, like honestly, that's something that comes with running a platform, obviously, that represents such much diverse community. So the South Asian community isn't just one single perspective. Obviously, it's made up of many cultures, religions, generations, and viewpoints. So naturally, not everyone will agree with every story, obviously, and topic we publish. There has been definitely some moments where people disagreed with certain content that we've posted, but then we end up pivoting. We have to pivot in what does the audience want to see? But I've always tried to see that feedback as part of an important conversation. So, for me, it's all about amplifying voices. For instance, as I come from an entertainment background and an entertainment family, and my father was kind of in the entertainment business with the radio station and everything. He used to tell me, just make sure you don't cover something where your brand will get affected or it's going to hurt you in the end. Every father wants their daughter to be protected, obviously, especially in today's era.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we have faced backlash. It's sad because we want to talk about everything, but sometimes there are audiences out there that will just say, "Oh, don't follow this person because they only talk about this." But I kind of, try to clear out the noise and kind of just focus on what exactly the goal is. And I think, at the end of the day, if people care enough to respond passionately, it shows that the platform matters in the
Both
community.
sides of the coin.
Yeah, you feel invested in it, because, I mean, there's like billions of people in the world. You can't let one person affect, your brand. So, and I think, for example, the LGBTQ community in North America. There's a huge amount of South Asians that are part of that, right? We used to do interviews with those people and they really helped, they liked it. Even if they didn't have a viral Instagram, but they were appreciated because they're like, wow, we did it. We got an interview with Urban Asian. I got to tell my story, and it all wraps into mental health as well for that community as well. So we like to tell those stories. I kind of ignore the backlash and just keep moving.
So, we often talk about, getting a seat at the table, but
Yeah.
you've literally built your own table. So
Yeah.
how do you define success?
I think success is more about like something bigger. It's not just about the traffic or visibility. It's about impact. I see success in if someone's story is going to help another person, there's always going to be a group that likes it and a group that doesn't like it. And I think we just need to cut the voices out and just do what we believe in, because it kind of brings more positivity, I feel like. I'm a big advocate of mental health, And I think that's really important because in today's generation, the new generation who's evolving, these new kids on social media, these influencers, it's not how it was in the 80s, how
Right.
things where you were not allowed to talk about it. Oh, if you're crying, you're not supposed to cry. It's like, no, it's forbidden, now men cry, women cry, and it's okay. I think we have to be a little bit more open. So yeah, success now is also like about longevity. Urban Asian has grown into a platform that has documented and supported our culture for years. And that legacy, means a lot to me. I mean, 16 years doing this as a side job, uh, along with working in corporate America, is not easy. In the beginning, the goal was to build a table, now the goal is to keep expanding it with more voices and more stories. Because, Earth has billions of people, there's billions of stories to tell.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what my thought was when even I started podcasting. And I thought that usually on day-to-day basis, we meet so many people. There are so many inspiring stories.
Right.
And I've been following you since many years.
Oh,
And
thank
when I
you.
see you doing that, even if you're posting about your, heartfelt, expressions on Instagram stories or whatever, it just
Right.
kinds of inspires others. So I think
Yes.
that's very nice. As much as positivity and inspiration can be, spread amongst people, I
Of
think
course.
everyone needs hope. Somebody gets from chit chatting with some neighbor, or somebody gets it from social media. So I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your kind words.
When you were starting off with creating a platform at this global stage, did anyone doubt your vision?
Yeah, there have in the early days, people did doubt our vision. When you're building something that doesn't exist yet, people often struggle to see the value and understand the vision. So friends, colleagues, even people in the media industry would sometimes question whether this platform would work. My team of writers and social media reps, they all come to me with ideas. I take every idea and I try to expand on it. At the end of the day, I might be a little bit older than them, but the people that are writing for me are a little bit younger. So I try to kind of look at consumer behavior and see what exactly, you know, the next generation enjoys. Um, so yeah, just kind of kept on going. And doubt is inevitable, right? When you're building something new. But persistence, belief in your purpose, and letting others, letting your results speak louder, the words, was the way forward. So yeah, I kind of just ignored the noise and just kept going.
So, what does leadership mean to you when you're a woman in the media?
Okay. Yeah. Leadership in media as a woman today, right?
Yes.
I guess it's still evolving. It's about showing up with more confidence, vision, authenticity, even when in an industry that's been like dominated mostly by men.
Yes.
Um, it's not about making decisions or managing a team. It's about creating space, where there's diverse voices being heard, whether it be a Bangladeshi story or a Nepali story or a Gujarati story or a Marathi story, right? And all those women, they have stories to tell and they're all leaders. For me, it's also it means leading by example, staying true to my values, protecting culture, and being able to take those risks, and balancing creativity with strategy. Basically. I think leadership in as a woman in media is about turning obstacles into opportunities, right? Not just for yourself, but for the community and talent you represent.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we still have a lot to do and a lot to accomplish. Um, and I think one day, I mean, look at today. There's so many female CEOs in America, and they're South Asian. Like I've come across Indian women who are now CEOs. I think things are changing slowly. But yeah, it's really important that we have a voice as a women in media. So,
What's the biggest misconception about a strong woman?
I think misconception. Uh, a good question. I think the biggest misconception is strength. That strength means being unapproachable, right? Or not emotional, right? People kind of often assume that if a woman is confident or ambitious, that she's tough in
Yeah.
a way that's intimidating.
To a
um,
lot of men.
yes, yeah, exactly. Or that she's has to do everything alone. Um, the truth is, I think strength comes from clarity again, and ability to stay true to yourself while you're kind of lifting other people up. It doesn't mean kind of like shutting down empathy or collaboration.
Mm.
And I think with South Asian women, we tend to kind of sometimes we kind of put ourselves down or we put others down, other women down. And I think that kind of also needs to change. Like there's too much competition, or I don't like what this girl's doing, or I don't like this what this person's doing. I think we have to come together and be collaborative and understand, we may have the same voices, our goal is not competition. Our goal is to create voices and a solution to fix those things. For me, strength as a woman is about like authenticity, being authentic, owning your own voice again, like I said in many of the things I've said today, and showing compassion. So yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception. But I think to to kind of come together, we have to collaborate. That's really important.
And in reality, as of today, what do you think women amongst themselves, they are like competing with each other more or they're supporting each other more?
It's a mix of both, I think. Like I feel there's one group that doesn't want to be part of that collaboration deal, and then there's one group that says, "Yeah, let's make stories, let's get together. Maybe there's a topic that we're all talking about. How can we fix this?" Um, and maybe do something together to prevent issues for the next generation. Like for instance, like there's massive issues with mental health in America with Indian kids and American kids. I mean, it's all ethnic backgrounds, but mental health is a big topic, right? And that's become like the trend now is mental health. But we want to educate our new generation kids. Social media has become such a I wouldn't say toxic, but sometimes there's got to be some sort of protection around social media for the young
Right.
generation. So there are topics out there which we can agree on, but I think we have a long way to go when it comes to why are we the question we should all be asking is what are the issues and who else is agreeing with these issues and how can we find a solution?
Right.
So we still have a lot more to do, but I do see that more South Asian NRIs are starting to get together,
Mm.
collaborate together. And if there's like again, there's always that group of fools who don't want to be interested. Again, you just cut the noise out and you work with the people who are positive. That's how I
Right.
see it. So
So you've been through many algorithm eras. Like you started from the blog and then Facebook dominance, Instagram algorithm, and whatnot after that. So how did your platform go through these ups and downs, and how did you kind of like stay relevant?
well, yeah, I mean, because it's a blog culture, we existed through uh that era, obviously. But again, like Gurmeet, algorithms can change overnight. Platforms
Yeah.
rise and fail. And what worked yesterday may disappear tomorrow. So, yeah, we always ended up pivoting. And just recently, about a couple of years ago, we started getting into the K-pop and the K-drama culture.
I've been
Um,
reading that on your site.
yeah, and I love it. Like I,
Demon Hunters is my current favorite.
yeah, exactly. I know.
I was actually introduced to Demon Hunters by my nephew.
Oh
I
wow,
didn't know
yeah,
about that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
And then I
Demon.
heard one song and another song and another, and then I had to watch it. I was like, oh my
Oh
God, what
my
have they
god.
made? So,
Yeah, yeah, K-pop Demon Hunters is like a
yeah.
big trend here. People,
Yes.
are crazy about it. So, for me, it was all about like as you say, strategy and growth, right? How do we shift and how do we figure out if the algorithm works? So, a couple of years ago, I got introduced to the K-pop culture through a friend of mine in India and one of my friends from college, obviously. And I watched one show, and then I became addicted to a whole bunch of K-dramas and K-pop.
Yeah.
It just went on and on. Then I watched, sorry to say this, but I've watched so much K-drama than Bollywood
Me
films.
too.
It
Because
became
they're
so good,
actually so
and then
different
it's
and
very,
nice.
very
Very.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I started talking to younger kids, and then I started seeing that, okay, wow, India has like a huge market for K-pop and K-drama culture. So we started doing interviews with K-drama, and I started a K-pop K-drama culture. And I kid you not, about 3 years ago, we did an interview with a K-pop band, and it got more views on our YouTube channel than a Bollywood interview. So we were like, okay, and it was all organic. Like, we do not put
Hmm.
any advertising money in our YouTube videos. We want it to be organic. But people were just like young kids. So then I thought to myself, consumer behavior, audience behavior, what do people like?
Right.
So yeah, for me as like an 80s millennial, I do talk to younger kids because I'm like, what do you like? What's gonna make you read our articles, right? So sometimes
Yeah.
I'm always talking to college kids, high school
Yeah.
kids.
Because they
uh,
know so many things that
we don't know.
we don't
Yeah.
know.
What do they like? What do they want to read about? So yes, we have pivoted over to the K-pop, K-drama culture. And now we're seeing that India and Korea and, they're doing a lot of collaboration deals. So it's really cool to see it because, again, times will start changing. Generations are going to start changing. So if you don't keep up with the
Yeah.
generation of what they like, you're going to lose that momentum on your website. So for me,
Absolutely.
it's all about learning what exactly like a 7-year-old will like or an 8-year-old, because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that 8-year-old kid knows what exactly what's trending,
Yeah. Well, we are stressed about other things.
Right, exactly.
You've been quite open about your health struggles.
Yeah.
So, how do you navigate through that and still like lead in this business?
Yeah, so I've been kind of open about my health problems in other interviews. I don't like to shy away from it. It's just something that I think that I would like to talk about because, there could be other people like me that are still trying to figure out their path in life or their
Right.
career. So yeah, I
Right.
was diagnosed with epilepsy when I was 12. I was in a bike accident, and that led me to doing a lot of things I wasn't able to do, like driving, or just strobe lights or anything like that. So, but again, it's controlled. But when the boys came to me and approached me with this website, it kind of took me out of, not, I wouldn't say depression, I would say um, trying to kind of focus on one thing rather than being upset about what I had as a condition, obviously. So that kind of put me in a lot of like hope. They kind of took me out of that because I didn't know what I was going to do after I left composite. And I was doing a lot of online media for Jay and like Jay Sean and Raghav and a whole bunch of other people, obviously. And I learned a lot from Jay when I was mentoring with him. Um, I didn't know what to do after that. So when the boys came to me and said, "Hey, why don't you start blogging and we can build a team," that kind of helped me, because you know how it is, like when you are so worried about your medical condition or something, it could be anything, something small, you start to blog and you start to write, it kind of distracts you from thinking about the negative and kind of thinking about the positive. So yeah, I mean, I did have a lot of mental health struggles, but for me, it was more of like a positive thing because I was able to turn it around and open this website and keep my mind busy because you have to keep your mind busy in order to distract the negativity. So yeah, I mean, and I still balance it. I balance
Put
my
it
health.
up so beautifully.
Yeah,
So,
no, and yeah, and because I'm
rather than being depressed, it's better to like channel yourself
yes.
somewhere else.
Yeah, like I have a few people who have written for Urban Asian in the past, and they've told me, I love writing for Urban Asian because it distracts me from mental health issues, or maybe they're having generational trauma with their family members. this kind of takes them away from sitting and writing articles and being kind of like focusing on something different. I have one writer currently who went through a really bad, she had a really bad relationship, and she started writing for us a few years ago, and then today now she's got 3 books. She's written 3 books.
Oh,
Yeah, after she joined Urban Asian, because she loved writing. For her, it was more of a hobby. And I'm really proud of her. She was able to write 3 books and get that published. So it's all about finding a hobby and sticking to it and kind of moving forward, and I always tell people that, hey, if you have a medical condition, don't let that stop what you want to do, because that's something so minute. You could do so many things in life. You just have to find those things. So yeah.
so did you ever struggle with like proving your worth, or like you were ever underpaid than your male counterparts?
Um, like what do you mean by that? So you mean like
Like when you were working, and even say if you are heading a media company and there are other
okay,
companies as well, but
okay.
you're out for meetings and kind of negotiating like the
Yeah, yeah,
prices
absolutely. I
just
think,
because you were a woman. Did you feel that you were undervalued or underpaid
oh,
just because you
totally,
were a
always.
woman?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in today's era, no offense to men, all men are great in my life. The men that are in my life are great. No offense to them. So yeah, I mean, I kind of uh struggled a lot with my pricing, my worth, especially as a woman running a media platform. There were times where brands or partners assumed lower rates because of the value of the work, but they didn't realize that in the end, their brand would be more valued working with someone that had a lot of experience. But
Right.
I think being a woman in media, sometimes means that you gotta have to, I would say, advocate harder for fair compensation and respect. So while you're proving that quality and impact and influence aren't kind of determined by gender. I think over time I learned to kind of assess the worth, especially being in the industry for so long, setting clear boundaries and, focus on building partnerships that I value. I mean, it's still a negotiation, right? But now I approach it with like full confidence, and that I know what I'll be creating can amplify more voices. So I don't kind of, it's still a negotiation. I think that's a big issue right now, obviously, is trying to find your worth, and trying to find the foot in the door with certain brands that you are really wanting to work with. So yeah, it's still a negotiation piece, I feel like, and I feel personally it's a taboo still, because again, it's this is why we have Women's Day. um, like for instance, I still don't see where's the research in behind that. Even in corporate America, even in corporate world, not even in
Yes.
entertainment or media world, it happens in all worlds,
Everywhere.
right?
Yeah.
So like where's the research behind it? Why should a man get paid more than a woman? Like
I
where?
think one of the reason I think which corporates believe is also that if I've seen when you give interviews and when you hear stories from your friends when they give interviews for jobs, they often ask that are you married or you're not married. I don't think
Right.
men are being asked that question. And
Oh,
then, okay, if you're married, will you be living here or you will be relocating?
is this a thing in India? Because I don't think that's a thing here in the United States.
I don't
Maybe
know.
I'm
I've heard many people like from
Wow.
many people. Yes,
Wow.
yes,
That is,
yes.
yeah, so things have to change. I mean,
Big
I
time.
don't I don't know what the solution is, but it definitely there needs to be some sort of change in equal pay.
Yeah, and
Um,
also after kids, I know so many talented and who have left their full-time jobs after having kids because they can't really work from say 10 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening and then travel for
well,
2 hours and then reach home at 10 o'clock and then where are the kids going to be, right? So
Yeah. I gotta tell you though, the people in India are very hardworking. Yeah, you guys are
yeah,
very hardworking. I gotta give it to you because it's not easy. You know, the lifestyle obviously in India is different than here, right? So, but yeah, something does need to change when it comes to. I mean, we do have laws in America called equal opportunity rights. You know, equal pay, equal gender rights. But those things, like, they sometimes they don't get followed. Obviously, you could write it on paper, you can make it a law, but people are not making it something that needs to be changed. You know, they're not
I
following
think
the
it's
rules.
also because of the pressure, the competition.
The
There's
competition. Yeah.
for one job, I think a company would be receiving at least more than a lakh,
Oh yeah. So many.
CVs. Yeah, so many. So who would
Yeah.
get the job? So
Yeah.
negotiating on the time that you want to work only from 10 to 4 or 10 to 5 or 9 to 6.
Yeah.
That is that topic is out of discussion actually, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. But it does need to change. I mean, to your point on that question, I think um in the media world, you're now starting to see more women pop up, which is great. And they're
Yeah.
very interested. I like, for example, I was just watching a video the other day by Joan London. I don't know if you know her. She's a well-known journalist for ABC News back in the 70s actually. And she was giving an interview to The View. Whoopi, it's a show that Whoopi Goldberg is hosts on ABC. And she came to the show and she was saying, you know, back in the 70s, it was like there was no women that were allowed in TV stations back then. It was all
Oh,
men. And she was one of the first females to be a female reporter back in the 60s or 70s. Like, she was just saying how things have changed. Now you've got women talk shows, you've got roundtables
yes.
with women talking about politics, entertainment, whatever, right? So you're seeing changes. I mean, obviously, as a millennial, we didn't get to see that growing up, but it's nice to see that it was a thing back in the 60s and 70s. And now that more women are joining the media workforce, it's a good thing,
Right.
you know. And now you can go to college for journalism and media writing and all these things. There's just so many careers that they're offering now just in the entertainment and media world, you know. So
Yeah.
it's things are changing, which is good. But as far as payments and equal pay, I think it will take time to get to that point. And I know
Yeah.
in Bollywood, obviously, in the entertainment industry, it's still a problem. So hopefully one day it will get solved.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
For all the women who would be watching this
Yeah.
podcast, mm, how can women stop seeking validation and start building authority?
Um, yeah, so women, I think women, how they can stop seeking validation and authority, they can, they can shift their focus from others' approval to their own expertise, like, and their vision and how they can impact others. It starts with trusting your own knowledge, and making decisions confidently, and kind of owning your voice. I go back to the word voice. Is we all have a voice. We all have stories to tell, and we can amplify our voice because me having epilepsy, there could be thousands of people like me, right, in the same bucket. And we could tell our stories together and try to make impact in the world. So I think another key step is consistently demonstrating value through action, right? So if you have value to your story, how can you make that value into an action? Whether it's delivering results, sharing ideas, or like maybe even mentoring others, right? For me, I personally grew up in a family where um if we needed to mentor others, we give our story to them and how we can help them also grow, right? Um, so I think authority grows when you show up authentically. Set clear boundaries and contribute meaningfully, and try not to like always please everyone because that's also important. So
I think that is Very important point.
If you make yourself happy and if you can help save someone else's life when if they're struggling with something, um
Right.
you push them. It's like, being like, I'm not a mother yet, but like, if I had a child, and if they fall down, I'm not going to pick them up. I'm going to make them get up on their own, because that's
Right.
independence. um that's really important, because I think sometimes we forget that there's so much noise in our head. We have to kind of cut all that out and just focus on what you believe in.
What scares you the most, failure or irrelevance?
Oh, let me see. I have to think about that one. So, honestly, irrelevance scares me more than failure.
Hmm.
I think failure is part of growth, right? You learn,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So you learn to kind of pivot and come back stronger, right? But irrelevance also means losing touch with your audience, right? Your community, or the impact you kind of set out to create. I think for me, staying connected to the evolving culture and kind of listening to the community and kind of continuously innovating is what
Hmm.
kept Urban Asian alive and meaningful. Failure can be temporary, right? But losing relevance, I think, undermines the purpose that someone builds.
That's a bigger damage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I kind of embrace risk and then occasional setbacks, but I'm kind of mindful of staying present and then
Hmm.
influential in that space. So I could look at it as I guess it's bad and good, you know. But yeah, I would say relevance scares me more than failure.
Okay. If a 20 years old girl wants to start something uh, like you did,
Uh-huh.
what can that person do right now?
If a 20-year-old girl would want to start something today, let's see what I think when I was 20, I was just starting, I think I was 19 when I started college. Um, Actually, yeah, you got to network, but if network and clarify your vision, what do you want to do? So if a 20-year-old girl wants to start something today, right? For instance, I think the first step is to clarify the vision. Like, what problem does she want to solve, right? And what story does she want to tell? Or what impact does she want to give to the world and create? Um, Clarity of purpose obviously will guide for every decision making. You know, I think then obviously she should start small and then take action slowly, immediately. Figure out what you want to set. Find a goal setting, like have a vision board. That's also really important.
Hmm.
You don't need to have the perfect plan or huge resources to begin with. Obviously, just start creating, experimenting, and learn along the way. Now, today, there's thousands of brands on Instagram that are, some fail, some don't fail, some always come to me and say, "How did you make it?" And I just say, you just keep going, and find a like, build a supportive network. That's so important, because when you have a good network and good mentors and peers and collaborators, you can who can challenge that person. They'll be able to open doors and then provide guidance. I think confidence also grows through action, experience, and find people in your industry. Do the research, find out like what the problem is, and then who is actually also trying to solve the same problem, and kind of get with them and get some mentorship, and always get some sort of mentoring done, because I think that will help build your confidence level.
One thing you want women to own in 2026.
um in 2026, I think that women should fully own their voice and their vision, right? Without trying to say sorry or trying to hesitate. Like, I feel like women hold back, right? They doubt their ideas, their opinions, or even their leadership that will be accepted. Like, they think that their leadership won't be accepted, right? And I think that needs to change. I think owning your voice means kind of speaking up, making decisions confidently, and asserting your expertise. Maybe owning your vision means pursuing your goals boldly, right? Defining success on your own terms. Um, if a woman can embrace both in 2026, we'll not only see individual growth, right? But I think it'll be a ripple effect of influence, innovation, culture change across both industries and communities. Um, for instance, it doesn't have to be in the entertainment sector either, right?
Right.
There's so many women out there experiencing startup companies in the healthcare space, right? And they've got so many ideas. So I think that's also really important. But yeah, these are probably one of the two things that I think that women should own in 2026: their voice and their vision.
And the last one, one thing that women need to stop apologizing for.
Oh gosh. I think women need to stop apologizing for being ambitious and unapologetically themselves, like being themselves, right? I think society today kind of pressures women to not speak, or soften their voice, shrink their presence, or even like downplay their achievements, but there's no reason to say sorry, right, for pursuing goals. I think speaking up or claiming space is really important because there's so many ideas. I go back to the whole voice situation. Your voice can amplify so many others. That's how I see it. So,
And I think
confidence.
if you are happy, you can make others happy, right?
Yeah, like there's so much negativity in the world right now, right? I mean, I feel now is the time to start speaking up more because of what's happening in today's like current affairs. So I think confidence, drive, and assertiveness aren't flaws. They're kind of strengths, for me at least. And if the woman stops apologizing for who they are and what they bring to the table, they not only kind of empower themselves, right? But they also redefine what leadership and success looks like for everyone who follows. And I think that's really important because like going back to what you said, if you're positive, you can make others
Yes.
positive. So
Yeah. Thank
hi
you so
Gurmeet.
much for accepting my invitation.
Thank you so much. It's good for me to be here. Thank you so much for having me as well.